It's cool when they do it. It's a problem when I do it. Fuck 'em. Birds of a
Hello and welcome to another episode of Fan Fuel Motorsports Podcast. My name is Alan Carrington, and I am joined by Colton Cranmore here today, and this is our 77th episode of the Fan Fuel Motorsports Podcast, where fans feel talk about motorsport. What is up, Colton?
Well, same old shit mostly. Battling a cold this week. So I've just been staying at home, watching a lot of House Hunters.
Okay. Good HGTV relaxation.
Yeah.
I think we all do that. Is House Hunters your favorite of those shows?
No.
No?
I don't know that I do have a favorite one of those shows. It's just good background noise TV.
Okay. All right. I mean, I like Lakefront Bargain Hunt and stuff like that. We watch that just to pass the time by. If you are listening to the background, it's a little bit louder than I expected. This is our intro. I want to go ahead and thank Terry Freer from my iRacing group that we got for Fan Fuel Motorsports. He and his band made us an intro. You've heard it on our podcasts on audio versions on Spotify and Apple and wherever else you listen to us. But I went ahead and made it as an intro and an outro today. So again, I want to thank him. Now it's finally starting to get quiet, even though I told it to start getting quiet at 30 seconds. Yeah, so we're going to start off today with local joke. But before that, I do want to say something about Talladega in the general. I didn't get to.
Your volume cut out.
My volume cut out.
Your mic cut out. Yeah.
No.
I heard that. And then that was it.
I wonder what's going on. Well, let me see if I can get my microphone a little bit closer. Sorry about that, people. Nope, now it's falling. Yeah, I didn't get to go to Talladega. First fall race I haven't been to since I think 2012. Maybe I didn't go in 2014, but yeah, I'm big sad. Didn't get to go to Talladega this year at all to see the next gen cars. So sorry for my loss. I was reminded of that. I was taking a shower earlier today, listening to music as you do, and Sweet Home Alabama came on, and a tear started falling from my eyes because I didn't get to hear him say that or play that over the loudspeaker before the race. But everybody that did go, I hope you had fun. Of course, we had the guys from Chairgate and some guys from Left Turn Colt and our very own Jared Bakaiza head out there. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's just say they had a little too much fun, and they're still in recovery today. So good luck on that, guys. But Walker Joke, let's get into it. First off, let's talk about what we showed at the beginning of the show. That TikTok from Kyle Busch. Do you think we should show it again? It's only 10 seconds.
Yeah, it's 10 seconds. Fuck it.
Yeah, let's go ahead and show it again.
It's cool when they do it. It's a problem when I do it. Fuck 'em. Birds of a
All right, so Kyle Busch put that on TikTok today. Luckily, Vince Brent put that on Twitter, so I saw it right before the show, and I was like, we got to talk about that. Great way to open up Wilker Joke today. So it's cool when they do it, but not when I do it. It's basically what he's talking about is running in the trucks and Xfinity series. So let's revisit that. First of all, Wilker Joke on Kyle making this TikTok. And second of all, Wilker Joke on us not having big boys in the lower series.
Woke on Kyle making the TikTok. I think any drivers that are willing to do shit like that.
Uh-oh, it's looping.
Are,
Told it not to loop. Technical difficulties.
There we go.
Uh,
I think any drivers that kind of partake in a lot of the social media trends are pretty fun. I know the Penske drivers did that earlier this year with Austin Cindric, Harrison Bird, and Joey Logano. They all made a fun little one. I think that's super cool. And then he's got a good fucking point, is that no one bitches when Denny Hamlin runs his one race a year in Xfinity.
Yeah.
Or Austin Dillon or Cole Custer run any of these other rides, Tyler Reddick, anyone else, no one gives a shit about it. Only Kyle Busch, because he's fucking good. So
yeah, I'm woke with it too. It gave me a great laugh. I think I've always been a Kyle Busch fan just because he drives for Joe Gibbs or whatever. Even though he's going to the dark side, I support RCR through Tyler Reddick anyways. But I don't really like old Richard for a few different reasons. I love that people are finally getting into these drivers that they hate so much, because it's like Kyle Busch, his personality has always been, the whiny guy and, oh, he's a little bitch or whatever. But like, he's always been really funny, really humorous off the track. And he's always been a good dude off the track, but he's very, very serious when he's got that helmet on and right after he takes it off. And it's the same thing for guys like Denny Hamlin. Like, people love him on Twitter. People love Harvick on Twitter, but they hate these guys on track. I don't get it.
Yeah.
But I guess the golden standard is Mr. Vanilla Boy himself, Chase Elliott. So I don't know. And I do want to ask you this before we answer the second part of that question is, what is it about Rick Hendrick and vanilla drivers? Because if you think about it, Jeff Gordon was mostly vanilla. Jimmy Johnson was mostly vanilla. And the biggest personality in the sport, Dale Jr., was mostly vanilla when he was behind the wheel of the 88 car.
Same reason that Penske drivers are mostly vanilla for the most part. I mean, Penske's has a little more flair than Hendrick drivers do. But it's because of the opposite businesses that are attached to the companies. Like Rick Hendrick owns like 90-something Chevrolet dealerships. If Chase Elliott gets out and starts MF and this or that or the other thing, they're saying that there's a problem with Chevys, there's a problem with this car. That looks bad on all of Rick's businesses at that point. Same with Penske and his truck rental business and all of his 9 zillion other fucking things he owns.
Yeah.
I think that's mostly what to do with it. And that's why we see guys like James Finch. When he was owning cars, like he would sign the Kurt Busches and shit. And the wild guys. And even Joe Gibbs. I mean, M&M's was footing the bill for Kyle to act the way he did at Gibbs. Other than that, they are, for the most part, pretty vanilla. Denny's lucky he's got the backing from FedEx. So I think it just has more to do with money than anything.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what's going on with Mike. It's making a lot of different noises. I can hear the feedback. So I apologize for that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't get it. And to your point about having, I guess, emotion when you come out of the car. I mean, look at the way that Joey Logano and Brian Blaney hold themselves. They have personality out of the car, but they don't have a brunt personality. So I don't know. Maybe I think with Kyle Larson this past week talking about Texas, we might see something different from that. That camp going forward, because I know Chase has been on Twitter a lot lately, just growing his thing. But second part of that, Kyle Busch TikTok is just drivers in general running Xfinity races. They're not doing it as often, and I constantly hear that era that they were big into it, where you had guys like Carl Edwards and Greg Biffle, Kyle, Kurt, Jamie McMurray, Denny Hamlin racing pretty much every week, that the Xfinity regulars at that time loved it. So are you woke or joke now that we're, I guess, 5 years removed from having full-timers regularly in the lower two series?
I think it's good to limit them. I don't want Kyle Busch out there every week running stuff, because that's where I do see the side of the fans that are saying, the bushwhacker kind of era of NASCAR, the guys that, I don't know, really didn't like that. I mean, I didn't love it either because I saw the same guys race Saturday and Sunday. But I think there needs to be some sort of rotation to Cup drivers in Xfinity constantly. Same with even maybe Xfinity drivers in trucks. I don't think it would be that far of a stretch to limit every driver to 5 races a season. And then I don't know how you would mandate a Cup driver in the field, but I would highly encourage it just to kind of help even out the fields as far as the talent goes. Because if you noticed, right after this rule was implemented, that's when the Truck Series started to get really nuts.
Right.
Xfinity
Yeah.
Series, granted, Xfinity Series has grown into its own little thing and matured in its own way, and it's amazing. But the Truck Series has aged kind of like milk. And I think doing something like that where you get some more veteran guys in there who aren't running full-time points. John Hunter is really good, but he's running full-time points, so he has to go out there and deal with their shit. Otherwise, he doesn't get paid.
Right. Yeah, so I was thinking about this earlier this week, and it's a good thing that Kyle put this TikTok up because it's perfect for. I was thinking, as you do when you're bored at work, I'm like, hey, what if we mandated that each manufacturer had a star car in both series, and except for Dash for Cash, Triple Truck Challenge, and playoff races, a Cup regular was driving that car. How do you feel about that?
I don't know how you would mandate it because you wouldn't be able to mandate the drivers into doing it. I think you could easily mandate the manufacturers into saying, hey, this one has to be filled by not a fucking rookie or someone with Cup experience.
Right.
I don't know how you mandate Eric Almirola to go down and run an Xfinity race. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it's in your contract, just say,
or what NASCAR can do is just foot a bill and just say, here, $20,000 for whoever drives this car this week.
Well, there's 25 races for Xfinity. I take that back. 35 minus 7, not minus 10. So there's 28 races for Xfinity. So at the max of three races per driver, I mean,
I think it's possible you would need some sort of monetary reward for it. I think you would need to say it's $20,000 for a race. And that's just your base salary, wherever you finish, you obviously get winnings and stuff too.
Right. Yeah. I think having 3 Cup regulars in the race each week would give people a way to learn how to be better race car drivers.
Yeah, I think 2 of them.
Yeah. That's just what I was thinking about. We got plenty of woke or joke today to talk about, though. First off, let's start across the pond with a bunch of what I feel like is very interesting. A bunch of tweets I've seen in the past few days that Lewis Hamilton is going to be disqualified from the World Drivers' Championship points based on the fact that he's wearing a nose ring each week.
That's bullshit. I mean,
so is it woke or joke?
I do not think that that's a real punishment, if that's what you're asking.
So would you say that it's joke, that it's a rumor, or?
Oh no. So apparently it's Singapore. He was fined for wearing a nose ring during qualifying during qualifying day. And there's a form saying that they cannot wear any sort of jewelry for race events. I don't think the one that I saw, the tweet that I saw, which I think you're referring to, is that he was disqualified from the World Championship for it.
Right.
Which is bullshit. Which is a joke.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think that's pretty easily a joke for me. I think it's interesting that you can't wear a nose ring.
Which is interesting. Like in your media.
I don't get it. That's a part of his brand. He's always wearing jewelry. Whether or not a nose ring is safe in the car is, I guess, subjective. But if that tweet that I saw was true and not a rumor, that's a complete joke. And the FIA, dare I say, it should be shut down. Because if you're gonna get disqualified from a championship because you have a piece of jewelry on, that's pretty messed up. And we'll come back over here. I got a bunch of different tweets and a bunch of different news to go over today. First off, one one of the guys that is good friends with Nathan Emil Backward on Twitter says that he didn't even know Xfinity was racing this weekend, commenting on Bob's tweet about next year's schedule, where there would not be a fall race for Xfinity at Talladega. So Woker joked that he didn't know that we'd been racing here for 3 years in a row.
I'm going to say woke because I didn't realize it either. Because I went to Talladega in 2019 and there were no Xfinity cars. Yeah. So it has to have been 2020. Yeah, the last 3 seasons. Which, I mean, that was news to me. I didn't even really notice it until I guess you said something. I mean, I guess I kind of would have figured it out with Brandon Brown's win last year, but
yeah. Well, I'm gonna go.
I'm with Emil. It didn't hit me.
I'm gonna go with joke, based on the fact that now 2 people have said that they didn't know. I think that's a joke on Talladega and NASCAR because obviously they didn't promote this shit. And even though I thought it was cool to see Xfinity at Talladega, nobody else knew that it was happening apparently. So I'm going to go joke just on the fact that people didn't know that we had a race for 3 years running. Moving on, though, another thing that was said on Twitter was me basically complaining the whole time after that Hemrick caution at the end of the race that it shouldn't have happened and all that stuff. So I'm going to put myself on the floor. Woke or joke for my comments around the Daniel Hemrick caution.
Joke. That's a safety issue.
So I'm going to say joke and call myself out, throw myself under the bus, but I am going to provide excuse after excuse. I was not watching the race. I was listening to it on MRN, and I was watching the aerial, not the aerial cam, but one of the cameras that was provided to where you could watch the race commercial free. I was not watching a broadcast. There were no replays. It was just that singular camera being broadcasted. And when I saw Daniel Hemrick's car for the split second that it was on there, it looked like he was still in a concrete pit box. So I was pissed off because there was no reason for them to throw a caution for him to be there. And I said, and I quote, why could they not have just waited and moved that car back? Because you have 54 seconds from the pack going around to get it back on pit, in a safe area pit road and to the garage. So at the moment, I thought I was right. I was not right. I was wrong. I was very, very wrong. Nathan on Twitter, not our Nathan, put up some screenshots of 3 or 4 different cars hitting that spot on the wall where he was parked. So if something would have happened, NASCAR would have been in a bad spot. 2 drivers possibly could have been seriously injured or killed. And I made myself look like a clown on Twitter. So I apologize to all my fans and all my sponsors. We don't have those, but anyways. Keeping along with interesting stuff on Twitter, let's talk about some other stuff that happened, and we'll talk about, without naming these next 2 people, Toyota has lost a ton of talent, and this list contains guys like Kyle Busch, Chandler Smith, Carl Edwards, Matt Kenseth, Joey Logano, Eric Jones, Daniel Suarez, Furniture Row Racing, Brandon Jones, Noah Gragson, Rafael Lassard, Haley Deegan, KBM, and Matt DiBenedetto. So this has turned into a trend and sort of a meme on Twitter today. So Toyota has lost a ton of talent over the past few years. Woke or joke?
I am going to say woke.
Oh, okay.
Get me out of here. So Toyota has a huge driver development program in the U.S. I would assume they are spending tons of money in that, but also getting tons of money in kickbacks from NASCAR for that. I would have to assume, and all the race teams involved with it. I think that they know exactly what they're doing, and they are handpicking every single driver that drives in Cup Series for them. Nate pointed out on Twitter, like, no matter what, Toyota will always have the best drivers that they can grab in their stable. Obviously, they lost Kyle Busch, but they seem to be pretty damn confident that there's something else down the line that they can do, being Ty Gibbs or Who knows who will
Tyler
fill
Reddick,
it.
man. I mean,
Tyler Reddick is getting brought over. I think they know exactly what they're doing in the fact that let's get as many as we can, as many really good drivers as we can, and we'll start funneling them down. And then every year or two, we'll just spit a couple of them out because they don't have what we're looking for, right? Or they're not cut from the same cloth. Like Noah Gregson's a great example. They gave up Noah Gregson because he wouldn't fit in a Toyota stable. There's no goddamn way, I think they know exactly what they're doing. It really sucks that Cup teams like JGR and Denny Hamlin's team won't get a pick at these guys unless they try to switch them back over from a manufacturer. But I mean, it is.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go joke. Just based on this list alone, I don't think Toyota has lost a ton of talent. I guess that what I'm trying to say is that like you said, Toyota knows what they're doing, right? However, let's look at everything that we've got here. So first off, let's scrape the bottom of the barrel. Matt DiBenedetto is not a loss at all. I'm sorry, he's won one race. Technically,
this last weekend, in 10 years in NASCAR.
10 years in NASCAR in the top 3 series. He threw away multiple races in Cup and one race in Xfinity really bad at Road America. Haley Deegan is
too early to tell. It's,
in my opinion, not a loss of talent, but it is a loss of marketing talent.
Bingo. I don't think driving talent. Yeah.
Rafael Lessard, I love the fact that we've got other series from international NASCAR coming in with him coming from Pinty's. Not really someone who I think that they're losing very much. He doesn't race enough for them to be a big loss. Noah Gragson.
Yeah.
Noah Gragson developed into a loss, but like you said, he wasn't going to fit at Toyota. Brandon Jones is losing daddy's money. Like Brandon Jones can go out there. He's the Elliott Sadler of Xfinity now, because Elliott Sadler bounced around when he went down to Xfinity and won a couple races for every organization that he went to. That's all they're losing is a couple races a year over 2 years.
See, I think Brandon Jones has really developed this year. We've seen him be a lot more. I'm not saying by any means that it's a loss of talent to the Toyota stable, but I will go in and defend Brandon Jones. Of a year ago, I was calling for his ride to be lost, and now he's actually fucking competitive.
And he's going to go directly into, most likely, knock on wood, the championship winning car next year.
Right.
So that's good. Furniture Row Racing, Toyota didn't lose talent there. Toyota didn't lose anything. Toyota funded a new team for Martin Truex Jr., and I'll get into that here in a second. Daniel Suarez, Toyota rushed him to Cup.
Yeah.
I will say that they lost the talent there, but not a championship caliber talent.
Right.
They lost a middle of the pack guy. Eric Jones, I think they fumbled the ball with Eric Jones in the same way they did with Daniel Suarez. But again, I don't think that he was a championship caliber talent that they lost. I think the only person that they lost until this year with Kyle Busch was Joe Logano. That's the only talent they lost. And hear me out, because we knew Joe Logano was going to be the next best thing. We saw it. We knew it. They preached it. They got rid of him too soon because he wasn't doing anything. All these other guys, Carl Edwards, Matt Kenseth, Kyle Busch even, and Martin Truex Jr. What do these guys have in common?
They're fucking old.
They came over as massive talents from other manufacturers because JGR recruited them. So if anything, JGR is the people stealing talent rather than losing it. So that's why I think that this is a joke.
I would argue with you that Eric Jones is a championship level talent, but we can save that one for an off-season episode.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that.
I'll note it.
Okay, definitely. But that's just where I'm at with this. Well, I think that's it for that one. I really wish that one of our other hosts would come on, but since we're not, you listen. It's a lot more easy. It's a lot easier for me to bounce off of multiple people to keep the flow of the show going than two.
I agree. And
but everybody's busy. Jared is either dead or at work.
Or still at Talladega.
Or he's still at Talladega trying to get back to Pennsylvania. Med school is taking our boy Nathan. Poor guy. And then not going to get mad at that. And I'm also not going to get mad at Keith. I'm trying to scroll up because I want to make sure I say this right because I don't know anything about anything. Yom Kippur. That's how you say it. It's so. a Jewish holiday, and I didn't research it before the show, but Keith is celebrating that with his significant other's family, and I think that is beautiful that he is missing us for family time. I'll never get mad at that. But fuck work, fuck med school. Why do they have to get in the way? This podcast is more important. I'm not mad at Kevin. I'm not mad at Nathan or Jared. I'm just mad at their situation. Yeah. So continuing on, I said Kevin because next point, Kevin Harvick, he gets penalized. Firstly, rear deck lid has been manipulated. And I'm not going to say welcome joke to the penalty. He's been penalized 100 points. He's not in the playoffs anymore. So worst he can finish is 16th. It's going to not move him very much, I'm sure, in this final 10 races. And that what I am going to talk about is a reply to Bob's tweet about the deck lid. This person says NASCAR targeted him because he spoke up, in air quotes. No, they didn't. NASCAR fans love conspiracies, and for woke or joke purposes, don't cheat, you won't get caught. Don't cheat, you won't get caught. Woke or joke.
Are we doing woke or joke on just that last bit of the statement?
Just that last bit.
Don't cheat and you won't get caught? Well, I mean, no shit, Sherlock. What's the fun in that?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's like saying, well, don't walk outside when it's wet and your floors won't get dirty. Yeah, but it's fucking raining outside.
Yeah, and you got shit to do.
Right. We got races to win here. We can't just be piddling around in the rule book all the fucking time.
So this is a mentality that I've seen a lot this year. After Denny's penalty and Kyle's penalty at Pocono, after the other L1 penalty that we saw hit the RFK guys and the 16, don't cheat and you won't get caught. Is this mentality just coming from, first of all, obviously it's a joke. Is this mentality just coming from the supplier parts not being manipulated being such a big rule or what? Because I don't know. Like NASCAR, if you're not cheating, you're not trying.
The phrase "don't cheat and you won't get caught" comes from people who have never worked on a race car, never been around a race car in their entire lives. Or people who worked in a race car that ran last in a hobby stock feature every single week. I'm sorry, but every competitive race car has something illegal with it. That's why they make the rules. It's not like football rules the game. You can't go out of bounds and such. They make the rules to try to limit the teams, and there are so many gray areas even today. Find a gray area in an NFL rulebook for me.
Right.
And, they're applying that same mentality over to NASCAR. If 39 other teams are cheating and doing this thing, why shouldn't I try it?
Right. And I was talking to Myra about it earlier today, and she was like, well, who the fuck is Jimmy Johnson in this world, right? He and Chad Knaus admittedly showed up with 10 to 15 things illegal on their car, race after race, especially in the chase, and would hope to only get caught for 3 to 5 of them.
Right.
If you're not cheating, you're not trying. You're not winning races. You're not winning championships. That mentality just needs to stay in a black and white rule book sport, and that's not what we are as, I guess, engineers' playground in motorsports.
This tells me that there's a lot of other teams probably doing this if Kevin Harvick's team got caught with it.
Right. This is the third car this year.
If you're an SHR, are you taking this risk and implementing it during a race if you haven't brought it to testing, if you haven't developed it in the sim, if you haven't ran all the fucking tests on it? Are you even trying to bring it to the track? Because it's not like it was in 2004 where you just go on, tweak shit a little bit in the garage and call it good.
Yeah.
They developed this, and they just so happen to get caught with their number one driver. It sucks. I'm sure they ran it on Cole Custer's car or Eric Amarola or Chase Briscoe's before they ever tried this. Especially with Harvick being in the playoff hunt, I'm sure they've tested it somewhere in some form under NASCAR's nose.
Yeah. A bunch of people are saying that it's a big conspiracy that he's been at the R&D Center all these different weeks between Darlington and stuff. And I want to shout out Cody Powers for talking in a group text about this, or group chat on Twitter with all the other guys from like Chairgate and then In Between Media and all that stuff. He said that he looked into it after seeing people tweet about it, and the 4 car's only been to the R&D Center 3 times this year. And it looks like this was the first time in the playoffs. So I want to thank him for calling out people for being stupid. That was going to be the Walker joke for this, but I changed it up after I saw that.
Who's been to
I don't. This is the thing. Each one of these penalties happened based on manipulation of a body panel. It was the rear deck lid, the rear diffuser, I believe, on the 6 car that they fixed and put back on the car. And then, of course, on the 18 and 11 at Pocono, the little bitty piece of tape under the wrap. So I don't know if teams are manipulating all these underbody parts with suspension and engine and stuff. Well, obviously the engines aren't customer source, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're manipulating shocks, springs, truck arms, the transaxle, stuff like that.
I think you've got a fair point. I think that's a lot of the reason we've seen speeds pick up, and less failures out of a lot of these teams as we go later into the year. Obviously, Texas and Bristol are kind of outliers there.
Yeah.
But as far as you look at what we were running at Texas in the All-Star race versus when we came back, temps were actually hotter in the fall. So you can't blame it on more grip or anything. It's just these teams figuring out ways to get around stuff and setting up the cars too. That does play a part in it.
And this is something that we talked about in the thing too. And I brought up this point. I was like, we are putting so much pressure on these last 10 races. I don't think that we see most of this stuff happening in a full season playoff or full season championship. I've been outspoken about the playoffs, so I'm not going to go down that road again. But I feel like we didn't see any of these concerns for the cars on a weekly basis, failures on a weekly basis since Richmond. And that was 2 races before the playoffs. So, just based on that, I think you're right. I think that cars are being pushed to the limit now because the pressure's on the teams. And that's why we're seeing failures. That's why these parts are, cheap or whatever, and happy cheap parts and cheap tires are being sold on T-shirts, And I get why the drivers and the teams are mad, but, that's what happens. This is playoff time. Like, go for broke. And if you get broke, then, suck it up.
Yeah.
Moving on, though, with all of that stuff, we got a bunch of moves going on. So I'll start with probably the lowest of the 3 announcements that we saw in the last couple of days, and then on the highest. First of all, that's going to be Xfinity starting at Vegas in the 07 car for Haley Deegan. This is the announcement. The Walker joke aspect of this one is going to be people saying that she doesn't have enough talent to be in the Xfinity series. Walker joke.
I'm going to say joke because I don't feel like the trucks are a really good gauge of talent at all, let alone comparative to Xfinity or Cup talent. I think you can get an idea with the truck series. just by using lap times and stuff. But you can't look at stats of the Truck Series and decide whether or not someone's going to be a good driver. John Hunter Nemechek could, I'm confident, whoop ass every single week in the Xfinity Series and be an AJ Allmendinger and Noah Gragson level talent. But you wouldn't see that if you looked at his truck stats these last couple of years.
Right.
Because the Truck Series is such a shit show. So I think this Xfinity start is going to be her gauge of talent. Because we know what that 07 car can do. Granted, funding when Cup drivers come down is a little bit different. But we know kind of what to expect from that car when we see someone fill in.
Yeah. Well, I don't understand, first of all, why people are mad that a bigger name is going higher in the sport. And whether you like it or not,
right?
Hailie Deegan is a money-making, I guess, a money-printing person just because she's a female, just because she's Brian Deegan's daughter. And when it comes to racing, especially in the era that we're in now, money talks, bullshit walks. That's why you see guys like Josh Berry and Ryan Preece, who are massively talented drivers, not getting shots because they don't have the money behind them. She's won races in the K&N series. She hasn't done anything in trucks, but you said it earlier. Noah Gragson didn't really show up in trucks. Harrison Burton really didn't show up in trucks. I don't know who else I could think that didn't really do that well in trucks. Todd Gilliland. I'd even say Ryan Blaney. He only had, 2 truck wins?
And Ryan Blaney, Cindric. I mean,
yeah, all these guys.
It goes on.
Trucks used to be a spot where you could learn a lot. It used to be learning how to drive with A, cup level talent, B, live pit stops, C, big racetracks. But now, like you said, Colton, it's turned into a shit show. Honestly, they need to revamp this truck series because it's becoming pointless. It's not the best series in the stable like it used to be. That's obviously moved up to the Xfinity series. And drivers aren't learning anything. And because they're not learning anything, they're wrecking a lot. And when they're wrecking a lot, they're learning even less. And you can't gauge talent. You can't. As a driver, you can't develop. And as a scout, as a fan, as a team owner, you can't look at people and judge, whether or not they're actually good or not. It's so situational. I think it's a crapshoot.
I've said for a couple of years, and I know I've said it on here and on, I think on Twitter as well, but like the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series could both be their own like magical series just on their own without companion races for the Cup Series if they weren't run like Major League Baseball teams.
Yeah, and we'll get to one of your points about that a little bit later in the show. I've got a question I want to ask you about the trucks when we get to the truck race. So I'll save that for later. But let's move on to the next kind of installment. Because of our third Woker joke of this section, Chandler Smith is moving up full-time to Xfinity. He is moving from Toyota to Chevy. And I guess just the fact that he's moving up, Woker joke.
Woke, I mean, I think Chandler could be a decent race car driver, especially hopping in there with a colleague that has championship level equipment. I mean, I think it'll be a great match. I think it's going to take him a year or two in Xfinity to even be really consistently competitive, but I think he could definitely go out and maybe swipe a win next year.
Yeah, I'm going to go woke for Chandler Smith because he's going to have a pathway to Cup at Colleague. And what he's also going to get at Colleague is Matt Colleague and Doug Rice, Chris Rice, who are two just champion people when it comes to cheerleaders. They are two guys that will push a driver up in an uplifting way and get the best out of them. They've done that with Justin Haley. They've done that with AJ, and they are a winning team. And they are probably going to be the second best team in Xfinity for the next few seasons because the likes of RCR and JGR are falling off so much. Yeah. And you're getting in a championship contending car in Xfinity. It's good for him. He's going to have AJ to lean on. He's going to have Justin Haley to lean on. And Justin Haley is the super speedway guru. So he can probably guarantee himself 2 to 3 wins in the next 2 years at Talladega, at Atlanta, at Daytona. So I think it's a great move overall. And then as far as him leaving Toyota, it's even better for him because who's going to be there for him at Toyota now that Kyle Busch is gone? Nobody.
Right.
He can still maintain that relationship with Kyle Busch because Kyle Busch is now a Chevy driver. It's just a walk-on right for Chandler Smith. And I'm glad we're going to have another guy that's really competitive being able to develop in a really competitive car. Next up is the move that made that happen was AJ Allmendinger is going to run the 16-car full-time in Cup. Just woke or joke on the move.
Woke. AJ is, a former Cup, full-time Cup driver. He jumped into that Xfinity Series organization, and they started knocking off wins pretty quick. I think he's going to do the same thing for Cup. It's good to have a veteran driver hop in and try to evaluate a program. We knew they were running 2 full-time cars. At the start of this year, we knew that, and there were rumors that AJ could do full-time in it. So I'm glad that they are going to put him up to see now, okay, we can grab this program. We can make the necessary adjustments with, kind of AJ's guidance of what we need to do to be a winning team in Cup.
So, yeah, I just looked it up. AJ is going to be 40 this year.
Mm-hmm. So
I have to go woke as well. AJ Allmendinger in his prime in Cup, I was so pissed off that he wasn't going full-time in his next-gen car this year. I'm super excited. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I just looked it up, and I'm really excited. I love AJ Allmendinger. He's one of those guys that is just very comical off the cuff, I guess. I don't know. I was going to try and use a mannerism, and I couldn't figure it out. He's kind of, off the cuff. He says what he wants, and he's just really fun. So not only that, he's really talented. He's been back and forth as being a controversial driver with the drug stuff, going to IndyCar, coming back to NASCAR. He is someone that we need in Cup. And he can make Matt Collig even richer and have a little bit more trophies when it comes to Cup as well.
Yeah.
And that 31 car has been fast these last 3 weeks too. So if you're not excited about having 2 competitive cars with Collig Racing next year, AJ and AJ Jr. are going to bring the heat.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to add?
No, you pretty much hit it. I think it's just a good move all around.
Yeah. So we've been teasing a little bit, and that was that our very own Jared Bakaisa was at Talladega this week. Learned he is the winner of Corey LaJoie's Penny Stacker of the week. And I've got to show you this picture, and we'll go woke or joke. He tweeted and he told us that he met Corey LaJoie this weekend at Talladega. Woke or joke that he met Corey LaJoie this weekend at Talladega?
Super woke, because in all honesty, sober Colton at a quick glance thought this was Corey LaJoie. Like the first 3 or 4 times I saw this, I saw it in our group chat and I saw it on Twitter. I was like, yeah, cool. You met Corey LaJoie on the boulevard. Like, that's awesome, man. And then I read into it, and it is not Corey LaJoie. So I definitely see how however many beers deep Jared could mistake that for Corey LaJoie long enough to take a picture of him. Absolutely get it. 100% woke.
Yeah, this was really funny to me. I think it's a woke. He got recognition from Corey both on Twitter and on his podcast, which I think is really cool. Getting that fan fuel name somewhere else, always a bonus.
This looks like what Corey LaJoie would wear to go out in disguise and party in Talladega Boulevard.
Yeah, exactly. You're telling me that's not Corey LaJoie.
Yeah, you're telling me he doesn't put on a fake fucking beard and a wig to go party and a Myrtle Beach Merman jersey.
Yeah, right. This guy looks like how I feel like Corey LaJoie looks like in real life, without the prettiness that the camera gives you. Like, if with the quality of this photograph, that could easily be, Corey LaJoie.
That's Corey LaJoie's cousin.
Yeah.
Fucking Connor. I don't know. Shit.
Connor LaJoie. Yeah. But no, it had to be fun on the boulevard for Jared and the other guys that went with him.
Like, if I were that dude, I would try to do autograph signings as Corey LaJoie.
Yeah, he probably would do it. And I mean, yeah, that's hilarious. I mean, he's got the same long hair, same length. He
looks like
beard.
A Corey LaJoie Halloween costume.
Yeah. If I'm Corey LaJoie, I'm finding this guy and having him be a stand-in for him to do stuff like that. Because if he's as tall as Corey too, like, shit, don't even go to media stuff at the Team Chevy trailer. Just fucking send this guy.
Send this guy. He'll bring back the spark notes. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Jared also got to meet, we don't have any more pictures other than this one. He also got to meet Denny Hamlin. I straight up just said, that's cool, fuck you. Because obviously I'm a massive Denny Hamlin fan. I'm sure Nathan wasn't too happy. But Denny Hamlin is a really good dude. Cool that he stopped a Kyle Busch guy with Kyle Busch merch on and took a picture with him. And hell yeah, Jared, just his facial expression, you can tell he's had a few, he's having fun.
Yeah.
And he got to see the best NASCAR driver in the garage, personality wise. He also stirred up the pot in our group chat by showing probably 5 or 6 different pictures of people with "Fuck Kyle Busch" shirts on. Kyle Busch is a douchebag, stuff like that. And
while he's wearing his Kyle Busch coat and hat.
Yeah. And then this guy is out here like, they're getting all mad. So shout out to Dalton for getting mad at his friend Jared going around.
I mean, your dad's got a point. Jared is a what the fuck does he do? Graphic designer.
Well, yeah, he does a lot of stuff in Photoshop, but come on. I mean, you're telling me that's not Denny Hamlin?
No, I'm telling you it is Denny Hamlin, but I'm saying it could be Photoshopped in there. He could have taken a pic. Okay, so that one's, the Corey LaJoie one's definitely fucking real. There's no way that one's.
Yeah, but this one looks polished. I see what you're saying.
I don't
maybe
think
he would. He was like 2 beers in on this one, and that's why the quality's better, and he's not falling
because he's
not
around. Shaking.
And this is about 5 beers in. I don't know. All right, and one last thing. Hats off to the full brim hat. That shit is a must-have at Talladega because there's no shade at that racetrack at all. Anyways, that was our last Woker joke. So I guess we've got the nightly bathroom break for Colton. So I'll continue talking. I'll let him run off. I do want to take, I guess, this moment to be a little bit somber before we get into this weekend stuff. While Colton is away, I do want to bring up some recognition for the dirt world in general, but also for myself, and more importantly, my dad. My dad has had a rough year this year. He's lost 2 racing buddies in what feels like the last couple of weeks. I know it's been a while since his friend Eddie passed, but we lost one of the most iconic voices in the dirt world this weekend, Rick Eschelman, the voice of the World of Outlaws late model series. And I just wanted to say, you've probably seen our stuff on Twitter and Facebook, but it was not a good weekend for me. I've known Rick since 2002 when my dad met Rick working at East Alabama Motor Speedway. I think my dad met him earlier that year at Eldora, and he's been a part of our lives since, more so my dad, but I grew up around Rick, seeing him once or twice a year since 2002. I'm 27. It's 2022, so I was 7 years old. So I've known him pretty much most of my life. And I even got to do something really cool. And I I can't remember what year it was, but at Cleveland Speedway one night, the Outlaws were up there. My dad was on the flag stand. And Rick let me sit in the booth with him and commentate the races. When the Outlaws weren't on, when it was local stuff, I got to commentate races. I was probably 12, 13, 14 years old. Rick was a big part of our lives. And, we had him on a couple of months ago after he got announced that he was going to the Dirt Late Model Hall of Fame. And we had a bunch of laughs there, told a bunch of stories, and shared some great memories with him. Please go back and watch that. If you didn't know Rick, that's a good place to start to get to know Rick. He was a great man. And you can also go, he had some video series on YouTube and stuff where he did interviews on his little flip phone. That's a bit that's in there that we talked about him with him. So this weekend was kind of sucky. So we lost him. I do want to say it is public that he took his own life. The U.S. government did something this past year and changed the suicide hotline to 988. That is a number that, please, if you are in any sort of pain, remember 988. Call that number. Suicide hurts a lot of people, probably more than you think that you're hurting. And I know that might seem kind of shallow for me to say about something like this, but having been someone who's thought about it, who's been in that place, I'm glad that I'm not somebody that had to put this on my other family members and stuff. This is a third person and as many years that I've been connected to that have taken their own life. And please get help. Please call somebody. You have people in your corner. You may not know that you do, but they're there. My inbox is always open on Twitter. If you need somebody to talk to late at night, I work at night. Talk to me. We can get on the phone call, whatever. Call 988. The world is better with you in it. So please just know that there are people that love you. With that being said, I'll welcome Colton back, and we'll get into some Talladega racing. Sorry about that, making it a little bit somber, but it's stuff that needed to be said. Again, I want to apologize for people in Rick's life who lost him. He was a great man. Please check out anything you can about him. Listen to his voice on all replays of World of Outlaws stuff. He truly was a gem of the sport, and he will be missed. But back to Talladega. 3 races. Let's start with Talladega and the Truck Series. So, first off, let's talk about Matt DiBenedetto. He won. It took him 10 years. How did this win make you feel?
I don't think he's any better of a driver. I still don't think he has much talent. I think he has talent enough to be consistent or to be like a JJ Yaley or Reed Sorensen, right? Hold the steering wheel and put a car across the finish line, but I don't think he's, a continuous race winner. I think it's cool that he finally got one. I think it's definitely overdue. But I didn't feel either way about it. It would have been the same as if like Matt Crafton won,
Yeah.
Yeah.
A bunch of people are going to validate that he needs to be in the Cup Series based off of this. Dude had so many chances. I feel like.
Yeah, at some point.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool that he got a win, but like it took him so long. Like I said earlier, he threw away so many races, 4 or 5 in Cup Series. I know he threw 2 away in Xfinity. Like, I mean, the guy really never did anything. He lucked into the rise that he was in, and hands down, good for him that he got to drive in the Cup Series. That's a really hard thing to do, but. This is not the years of old where you can be Michael Waltrip and lose 432 races before your first win and still take a Cup car out each weekend. So, I mean, I'm glad that he's got a win. That should make him feel better. He's not that great. I mean, he is to the Truck Series what I was gonna say Big J McLeod is, but honestly, I think BJ McLeod's a better race car driver. And that's not to make light of BJ McLeod because of what he's done prior to being in the Cup Series. I mean, he's a great late model driver. I don't even think that Matt's got that going for him.
Right.
He's doing as well as we would do living our dream of being a race car driver.
Yeah.
I think he's just some regular dude that got lucky.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Other stuff coming in, not really much happened. The only big thing that happened was Jordan Anderson. He seems to be doing fine. He had second-degree burns over most of his body. But let's talk about this crash. I guess, first of all, dude climbed out of a moving vehicle. And I think that's badass. What are your thoughts on the crash?
I mean, fire's hot. You're going to have to – at some point, you're going to decide the risks. And for Jordan, that was that point of, all right, fuck it, I'm getting out. Regardless, I think even if he would have hopped out on the side like that and seen that he was head straight down the backstretch, I think you still would have seen him bail after the truck scrubbed off just a little more speed. If it's still moving or not, or if he could have landed in grass. I mean, I definitely think he was at that point. I don't know where it was coming in. But, I mean, obviously he hit that that point in his mind, and he's lucky he didn't hit that wall any faster. Because holy shit, that was scary. And then you could tell the exact moment where the adrenaline kind of started to wear off when he was running along the safer barriers, and you see him kind of like settle down and kind of almost go, ah, shit, and then lay down, so you can kind of see that reaction there. Yeah,
I'm glad you brought up the adrenaline thing. What he did was really badass. And honestly, like you said, scary for us because coming into that safer barrier like that, he could have been crushed. I mean,
we see it.
And he would be, either legless at best, paralyzed at best. Like that's at worst dead. Like that in the moment, it's probably fight or flight, and he got the burst of adrenaline he needed, and he did the flight stuff.
Yeah, but
centimeter more closer to that wall at any given point in the sequence that he comes out, he could have been torn in half, honestly, if he was still halfway in that car.
Another like Roman Grosjean scenario where like just the circumstances around the wreck were perfect. That it's almost like the impact helped him get out of the truck a little quicker.
Yeah.
So I mean, we could play what if, but like holy shit, like I said, we could see that impact coming, whereas he couldn't. And I'm sure had he been able to see, hey, the wall's 100 feet right there, he probably wouldn't have hopped out like that.
Honestly, it might be good that he didn't, because he could have suffered even more burning. It is tremendous. He was tremendously lucky to not have third-degree burns anywhere.
Yeah.
The fact that he got second-degree burns, second-degree burns fucking suck, but you don't need skin grafting, and you're not going to be out of the truck.
Far up. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys can see my face. I got second-degree burns on my face from sunburn, and it has been permanently pink since then. He might have to deal with that for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
But at least he didn't have to lose skin.
Yeah.
And that's what happens with third-degree burns.
Physical therapy, nothing like that, usually for second degree, which is, that's good.
Yeah, and you brought up the Roman Grosjean stuff. When it comes to the adrenaline, adrenaline is such a powerful drug that it helped both of those guys take everything around them, shut off, and just get out.
Yeah.
And it's astonishing how the human body can do that. So, hell yeah. I've still got Walker joke up. We're past that.
Hell yeah.
Let me pull that down. Last point, and I told you I was going to ask you this earlier in the episode. This race, as we talked about before the show and while we were prepping for it, was kind of dull other than Jordan's crash. That was the most exciting thing that happened. Most truck races on super speedways are kind of bland every single year. So my question to you, and it kind of leads into your whole truck schedule deal, do we even need trucks to be at super speedways anymore?
I think you need one, and you need it at Daytona to open the year. That's the only one that I would run. That's the only track I would run that's over 1.5 miles. I wouldn't race them anywhere else. I wouldn't race them Talladega. I wouldn't race them not Fontana.
What about New Atlanta?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. I would only do one Daytona race a year because it's not that common of a, I mean, it's more common now than it used to be, but of a racing style. And I feel like the trucks, you need, especially when they're young, they need to learn the fundamentals before they learn how to do the fundamentals at 200 miles an hour.
Right.
I think they need to learn to race first and then race fast. But I think one a year is fine to get their foot in the water for it. But I don't think you would see near as much of complete shit shows if you would have, one race a year like that. Yeah.
And I think earlier you said these series need their own identities, and that's what they're lacking right now. So kind of share your thoughts about what the identity of the truck series should be.
I think it should be almost strictly short tracks of kind of what the old Winston West and Winston East series used to do for local tracks, amp it up. I think the truck series needs to be just above that level to where it is a national circuit, but it's spread out over months, just short tracks. And then every once in a while you skip and you hit a big track and do a companion race with Cup and Xfinity, and then go back out and make another small circuit of short tracks. I think the reason you would need to have one a year is to show that this is one of the top 3 divisions in NASCAR. Let's all race them at Daytona. Start their season at the same time. You could even end them all at the same time at Phoenix if you wanted.
Yeah. So they're bringing back, I should say, next year. They're bringing back the Milwaukee Mile. They brought back this year IRP, and we talked about the spread of the playoffs and stuff. I don't know. I don't necessarily think that this truck series needs a playoff, but you've got dirt now.
Hey, they're listening to me. We got North Wilkesboro back too.
You got North Wilkesboro back next year too. I don't know that this is the companion series that they need to have. I think that ARCA is the third companion series when Xfinity's not there, and they need for like a Talladega, for Pocono, stuff like that. Take ARCA, make ARCA more profitable, and have ARCA at the big tracks.
I think that's a great idea.
Have trucks at the short tracks, like you say. I mean, because I think I listened to Mark Mamba and the Mayor, and Jeff Burton is always talking about how we need to be at short tracks. We need to be at short tracks along the lines with the Xfinity and Truck Series. He used to race, South Boston Speedway. We've got Hickory, North Wilkesboro, like you said, is a good regional market. But there's some tracks that we used to go to when we first started there. Obviously, like Walt Disney World Speedway is not there, but for you, Colorado National and Pikes Peak, having two around the Colorado, Wyoming area, that's going to bring you out to the racetrack. You're probably going to bring friends out to the racetrack, and they're like, hey, NASCAR is fucking cool, and they're going to start watching it on Sundays. So I think, why aren't we going to Iowa anymore? Colorado National, PPIR, Tucson, Arizona, Irwindale, Kern County, all these tracks, because if we were doing that and we could go out with the Cup Series, but we got somebody come in on a Wednesday or Thursday night, they might buy a ticket on Sunday. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, NASCAR is pretty cool. Let's go to the Cup race on Sunday. It's only 20 miles that way. Irwindale to Auto Club. You got the Bull Ring at Las Vegas, and they can still run the big tracks like Las Vegas, like not Atlanta anymore, like Kansas, Homestead. But if you do those 4 times a year, 5 times a year, you got 5 mile and a halves and 20 short tracks and 1 race at Daytona.
Yeah,
beautiful,
great season. Yeah.
And dirt tracks now, Williams Grove, Doquin, however you say it, in Indiana. Stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. There's a million different options we could go to do it.
Yeah. And I know you guys know that my dad's kind of embedded in the Xfinity garage, but he is a friend of also Jordan Anderson's. He says the budget they spend for a super speedway race constitutes as 2 races for trucks with equipment and development. Trucks also are not on a carbon fiber body. They have fabricators. They shape bodies. They spend more money on fabrication than the other 2 series. Hanging bodies isn't cheap, and manipulating bodies for different racing styles is not cheap.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's just too much money, and a revamp of the truck series would really do it some justice. Moving on, though. Later on Saturday was the Xfinity Series. We talked about it earlier in the show, and that's no more Talladega going forward. So before we get into the actual Xfinity race, how do you feel about them going to Chicago Street Course over Talladega in 2023?
So I don't know. It's really going to depend on this next year of how that Chicago Street Course races. I don't think it's going to be very good. All in all, sorry, she popped in here. But I don't know. I mean, to be fair, Xfinity Talladega is still new to me. We haven't been doing it all that long, so it's not really an embedded tradition for me. But I mean, I'm not a huge fan of either one of those fucking places, to be honest with you.
Well,
in terms of overall racing, I'd much rather see him go somewhere else.
So I think one of 2 things for myself. That is, obviously, Xfinity at Talladega is going to cost more money than the street course. Xfinity is up until 2020 the road course racing series of the 3. That was basically its identity. Of course, it's strayed a little bit from that because we've got so many Cup now. But it's disappointing to me because of 2 points. One, Road America lost that weekend too. Now, is Road America on the Xfinity schedule next year? I think it's not on the Xfinity schedule at all. And they've been there for what, 8 years now?
Yeah, almost 10.
That's a slap in the face to Wisconsin fans. I know they're getting the truck series with the Milwaukee Wild, but that is an absolute slap in the face to come out 100,000 plus 2 years in a row, lose a Cup date, and lose their traditional Xfinity date. I think it's a slap in the face. And then secondly, the Chicago Street Course.
Oh, hang on here. No, they did Road America. Saturday, July 29th. Yep.
Okay, so they moved it? Okay.
They moved it to the end.
Okay.
Yep.
So I was under the impression that they also lost their date because of that.
Yeah,
moved to Chicago Street Course. So whatever. I mean, still. They lost the Cup date. Like, it just.
Which, to be fair, of all the tracks that they added, the road course type, Road America is probably my favorite. I really wish they had Mid Ohio as a Cup track.
Yeah. But they floundered it. Yeah.
Yeah, Road America is definitely top.
But what is the Chicago Street Course doing, right? It's new. It's bringing us to a new market. It's bringing us to a new track type. They're talking about having electrification and having some cars doing electric races next year. Perfect spot to have these cars come off. If they're gonna do an exhibition at the Clash, do an exhibition at the Chicago Street Course. It's a perfect place to do it. So that's my two reasons why I think this is a bad idea. Let's get your thoughts about the Xfinity race overall, and then I'll go on to some sub points there.
Okay. So, I mean, like, you just want me to start overall thoughts?
Yeah, just overall.
I mean, it really wasn't that exciting of a race. It was actually very clean for what I thought a playoff race at Talladega would be for the Xfinity cars. I mean, not a ton of major news stories out of there. Your usual runners up front, Noah Gragson, Brandon Jones. There was kind of a late block between Noah Gragson and I think AJ Allmendinger. But other than that, I mean, it was really kind of a quiet race. It went by super quick. Yeah.
I mean, it was. I would say I would call this procedural. Not a good race.
Yeah.
It was a good race because it wasn't ridiculous.
It was exactly.
A shit show.
It wasn't embarrassing.
But it wasn't a great race. But it also wasn't it.
This is like a filler episode in the series that is NASCAR.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very perfect way to put it. And I want to say that it was a little bit unexpected that it was going to be like that because it was a playoff race. And I kind of figured with Noah Gragson dominating so much that the field would be hungry. Because, like, you win 4 or 5 races in a row, you're like, damn, I got to beat this guy. What better and easier place to do it than Talladega? Yeah. So I think my only thing is one thing that the Xfinity Series lacks, and, I talked about it with the trucks. The trucks really can't do anything. They can't really pass, and that's why I don't really like super speedway racing for the trucks. The Xfinity racing has been a little bit light since they went to that rounded spoiler in the back for these plate races. I think they need to change the aero a little bit to have a little bit more movement and allow drivers to push, because if they can't push with a flat edge, they're not going to be able to push a cut with a round edge. So that's all I really have to say about Xfinity. It was just, like you said, a filler episode of NASCAR. However, let's go to Cup. This race was clean. This race was really clean. Just like the Xfinity race. But I guess before I get into my points, what overall, other than it just being a clean race, how did you perceive it?
I would not be surprised that a couple of the drivers got together with everyone beforehand, whether earlier last week or before the race, sometime during the race weekend, and said, look, we all had the same issues with safety. We were all thinking it all going into Talladega. We are not going to risk anything. Like, if you do some dumb shit, like, we will fucking, like, we'll beat your ass. I don't know what was said. I feel like something was said between the drivers, though, because that was an abnormally clean Talladega race, especially for being playoffs, especially with how chaotic the spring was, especially with how chaotic Daytona was. This was abnormally calm.
Right. Okay. So a couple points I can rebound off of. I guess, firstly, let me talk about what you said. Basically, the drivers, somebody led a come to Jesus meeting, I'm sure.
I feel like there was a consensus. Yeah.
I don't know who it would be that started it, but it feels like with the safety and everything this year that somebody did what Rusty Wallace did, and I want to say 1992, maybe 93 Speed Weeks, 94. Stood up in front of all the drivers, said, you guys are all being dipshits. You're going to get somebody killed. We've had people killed, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I think you're right in that happened, and I think that's a bonus. However, I do want to say I was surprised because it seemed like maybe because of the aggression in the earlier races where they were tearing up equipment, there wasn't as many cars on track. It seemed like the package was this race out of all 6, that's hard to say, speedway races this year, provided the best racing.
So this racing is what we saw this weekend was similar to what I remember Talladega being like in like 2004, 2005, where you could pass, you could generate runs, but it wasn't crazy monumental runs you were getting.
It wasn't late Gen 6 runs. Yeah.
It was more pack racing where you had to manipulate a pack and not just mash it down and smash the guy in front of you. Granted, there still was a lot of pushing, but it was more racy than it was video gamey.
Yeah, I saw Denny Hamlin after the race. He said something like he was disappointed because they couldn't go 3 wide, and he didn't feel as racy. But I'm going to have to disagree with you, Denny. It looked really racy. Too bad you can't go 3 wide, right? I'm sure at some point you will go 3 wide with these cars because they'll get more and more comfortable with it overall. I think the package could probably use a tweak or two to help that happen. However, I think what we got on Sunday, if we can continue with the super speedways next year, is probably, dare I say it, the best pack racing that we've ever had. Because I said that about the wildness of the last Gen 6 era, right? But they were that was because it was too good of runs, and It was really more unfair because of that. And I want to bounce off your point about saying that it's like early plate racing in the Gen 4 era. I disagree. I think that these cars were more racy than they were back then. I think a lot of people look at
I'm comparing it to like the Gen 6. So compared to what we're used to, this was closer to No, I definitely agree with you there.
Yeah, I think when people look back at like the Gen 4 stuff, because they're saying that a lot of fans on Twitter, Reddit and stuff, saying this is like what we used to see when we were kids or whatever. I don't feel like that. I feel like that racing better. That racing was more follow the leader, more so like the early Gen 6 in that the leader was not going to get past, and you couldn't do that stuff. This, you could do all that. And I am a tandem stan. I will be to the day I die, but this race provided a pack race with tandem numbers. The last tandem race that we saw at Talladega was 58 lead changes, and that was the worst of the worst of the 6 races that we saw with tandem racing. 58 lead changes at the line. The most was 88. That was also at Talladega. The worst was 58. This package saw 58 lead changes at the line. That's not something that I thought we would see in a pack race, and it gave it to us. And I think that's phenomenal. I might, if this continues, have a new appreciation for pack racing. And I hate pack racing.
Yeah.
But this is good.
I agree completely. I think this is definitely better than what we saw with the Gen 4s, but not, like you said, the Gen 6 was almost too good, and it was almost, I don't want to say like, predictable, but you knew that if someone was going to get a run, there was no blocking it. It was
like Mario Kart. Okay, so if you've ever played Mario Kart, it changes based on difficulty, 50cc to 150cc, but they do what they call rubber banding. So if you are in the back on 50cc especially, and you lose like half a lap for whatever reason, you're going to be faster than the people in the middle of the pack, and you're going to get more of the
luck, the good items.
The good items, right? You're going to get Bullet Bill, you're going to get the blue shell, you're going to get red shells, not the shitty items like the guys up front who are going to get the inky squid thing and the bananas, stuff like that. I feel like late Gen 6 was racing a Mario Kart race because the guys in the back always had the better item, and that item was a massive hole in the air from the guys up front who had the banana peels, and that's all they could do was try and maneuver into you, and they usually didn't have enough reaction time because you were rubber banding and slingshotting past them, and they do that same thing. So it was like a 50cc Mario Kart race. It was like rubber banding AI. And it was entertaining because there was a lot of passing, but it wasn't really good racing.
Yeah.
And that's something that we always talk about here, entertainment versus racing. I think this racing was not only entertainment, it was what I would prefer as racing on a speedway where we can't go unlimited horsepower because I would do 260 mile an hour. I mean, that was beautiful. One of the best races I've ever seen. It pissed me off that we got that caution at the end. I told you about that earlier. Mm-hmm. I was wrong, but I think this race is going to always be tainted by the fact that we didn't get a green flag finish, because what Chase Elliott did was somehow have more momentum than the rest of the pack because we didn't get a long finish. And that was one thing that I irked about on Twitter. And I want to ask you if you thought I was right that the green-white checkered at a super speedway is not effective, because I believe you cannot build enough momentum to create a good race to the finish.
Yeah, I would agree. It needs to be at least 3 laps for a final restart at a super speedway. Granted, they are fucking huge and it takes forever to do a lap around there, but I feel like if you're going to promote that kind of racing, you better play into it a little bit. Yeah. Say only these tracks, because it does take them a lap to get up to speed, because they can't really pass until this point.
Yeah. And that's what Chase Elliott would, I guess the best thing I could say, Chase Elliott won that race because he launched first. Like he was driving a fucking NHRA dragster.
Yeah.
Like he got the best launch out of anyone, so that's why he won. So I don't like the way that it ended. Yeah, I hate Chase Elliott, whatever. You can say that I'm biased because Chase Elliott won, but if someone else won in that same way, I still would have been mad because we had a green-white checkered. Like, right. I don't know. I told you guys in our group chat that I think I've out-matured green-white checkered finishes. I would have rather just ended under caution.
I would say if they're going to go gimmicky, do every mandatory overtime finish 5 laps.
Okay. Yeah, 5 laps.
Call it 2 to go is where you make the cut. At 2 to go, if any flag flies, we're calling it.
Yeah.
And just call it there, because if you're already on overtime at that point, what the fuck does it matter?
Yeah, just extend. Basically, you're doubling it like you would at another track. I think that's a good compromise, because you can see at other racetracks you can get a run within the first half a lap. If you have a shitty launch, you can still come back to win. We've seen last lap passes. We've seen whatever, especially at like a road course or a mile and a half or whatever. But there was no momentum in that pack. Once Chase got out front, nobody could do anything.
No one could do anything, yeah. Because by that point, the back was just now starting to generate a little bit.
Right.
We hadn't gone anywhere with it yet.
Yeah. But the energy all day was super massive, and people could make moves if they wanted to. And that leads me to just talking about the race. We had one caution. I'm not counting Daniel Hemrick as the caution because whatever. We only had one caution with a stack up.
We had one
with
natural racing incident caution. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you feel about that? Because like we said with the Xfinity race, this was a playoff race. We were expecting chaos.
I mean, I think it is very ironic that of the last non-caution finishes in NASCAR, and especially after this last weekend in Talladega where we just had one, that they all come at these big tracks that we think are just complete wreck fests. I think it has a nice way of surprising us every once in a while.
Yeah.
Say that, look, it's not the racetrack that's shitty. It's the drivers that are doing this, that are making them into huge wreck fests where only 10 no-name guys win or finish. I mean, I think it's interesting. I think it's absolutely nuts that we were all expecting one thing and got 180 different.
Now, I thought it was refreshing. I thought it was great racing. We already talked about that. But there was a bunch of people that were a little bit mad, said the race was boring. Obviously, they don't like racing. They like wrecking. Would you agree that anyone that said that, that they just don't like racing? Yeah.
I mean, had there not been a finish at the end of the race, I would have called this one of my top 5 races of the year because it was so racy. And I mean, your dad does have a good point here. But I mean, I really love this race even after Chase Elliott won it,
Yeah. Yeah. One of the best races of the year by far. And it's a speedway race. And you don't hear me say that often because you guys know my disdain with speedway racing. But yeah, my dad brings up that it's the middle race changes and it changes the dynamics. Get points. Who cares about that win for a win? We talked about that a couple of shows ago. I think it was when JKL was on. We talked about that and we described the difference with having it as a wild card and whatnot. But also, it seemed like they were really aggressive, but they were cautiously aggressive, and I think that led to the clean. They were smart about their moves. It's like they were actually playing this high-speed game of checkers that we advertise rather than rock'em, sock'em, robots. I think that's what led to us having a good race. And as we come to our closing topic, I have to say, with us only having one natural caution, one situational caution, we had 4 caution flags during this race. I am going to 100% question why we have stage breaks yet again. We did not see massive wrecks at the end of the stages, but we saw pretty good finishes to both ends of the stages. Why did we have to stop the action if it was so good all day? Is my question. So I guess my point is, what is the point of stage breaks at Talladega? And then I'll get into strategy and stuff after you make your first.
Well, there is no point to them other than to re-rack them to try to get some sort of crazy ass wreck. Because Talladega and Daytona are the 2 tracks, well, now Atlanta, where you don't need a restart to keep everyone bunched up. So there is no reason to have the stage breaks unless the field gets completely strewn out, which in that case, NASCAR will just throw a phantom debris caution. And bring them all back in.
Right. And what do we see? Let's see. It was 1992, I believe. I don't remember if it was spring or fall race, but it went caution free, fastest race on record. Mark Martin won. 2001 fall race, Bobby Hamilton won that race, caution free. Both of those amazing ass races. They saw a bunch of tire strategy and stuff, which we don't see at super speedways anymore. They saw green flag pit stops, which we did see, but there was not really strategy involved in that. I think there's no need for it, just based off the fact that we know that when there's a caution-free race, they are good. And that's basically what you just said, because you don't have to re-rack them to make these things happen.
Right.
We had 3 stages of the exact same length. Woohoo, you had 8 laps in the 3rd stage. These teams split these damn things right down the middle, except for the last stage, but they still all pitted within 2 laps of each other. We got green flag pit stops, but we didn't see any strategy. And what the green flag pit stops did show us is that the packs are going to go right back to being upon each other in this package. So my question to you, as many fans as there are old school like us who want strategy and pit stops, like what to me and you and to all the fans like us, old fashioned fans, what did the stages add to this race in particular, other than just a fucking pee break?
I mean, it adds. I like the stage points, and I've said that several times. I like the fact that they give out the stage points because it does increase aggression, because we did see a little bit of aggression increase at the end of stage 1 and stage 2. But the cautions don't do shit. Like, you could get that same aggression and then watch as the guys try to fight to get back in line because they realize now, all right, all the points are earned. They're given out. Now we got to figure out how to get to stage 2 from here. Now we got to figure out how to make our strategy work. You would see differing strategies of – it would be a bigger swing between the guys trying to go get stage points and the guys trying to make a long race in fuel. It would open up a Pandora's box for strategy racing if they took away the stage cautions.
I'm glad that you brought that up. Firstly, because we've said that before about other racetracks, especially road courses, this would benefit. But it would also it would benefit with the fact that this car is so good at racing on intermediates. Darlington and above would be beneficial. Once they fix the short track package, it'll fix that too. But for this race, the biggest point that I can make about strategy was the 2016 Dega fall race. We saw, I think that was the last race that was a cutoff race before they went and made it to the center of the round. We saw 4 different strategies going on in that race, and it was caution free from, I believe, lap 45 until NASCAR threw a bullshit caution with 12 or 13 to go. And we saw the SHR cars out front doing their thing, like they did for that late era Gen 6. We saw 3 of the 4 guys at JGR, not named Denny Hamlin, sitting in the back, just making sure they're not getting in chaos. And they were in a group of half the cars that were on a separate strategy from the SHR cars, and they were all racing each other. And then you had one little dude who's out there, name of Greg Biffle, who was a half a lap behind everyone on a different pit strategy in a group of cars. I don't remember who they were, but they're no-name drivers, Front Row Motorsports and the like. There's 5 guys. He's on the back of that train. Slowly moves his way up to the front of that train after going a lap down because he had a flat tire or something had happened during that long 100-plus lap green flag run. And with like 35 or 25 laps to go, the field comes in. He's half a lap ahead of that train, and they were not catching him because they weren't formed up because they were all racing for second on back. They thought they were, I guess, racing for the lead. And until we got that caution, well, I think it was 15 or so to go, Greg Biffle was going to win that race on pit strategy, a half a lap ahead of the other guys. What in the hell? We could have had that Sunday, and we got a watered-down version of it because we just had to throw arbitrary caution flags.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. Exactly. I stand that race. It was one of the best Talladega races. It was the most emotional day for me as a NASCAR fan in the stands because Denny had his roof flap issue that the beginning of that race, and he was racing Austin Dillon for the last spot in. That was before the playoff points carried over, so it was second round. And I didn't know if he was in, and they weren't showing the points on the screen, and they weren't saying anything. So for like 20 minutes after that, I'm literally rocking back and forth, shaking because I didn't know that Denny was in. And like, I just burst out into a massive emotion once they said he was in. But yeah, I think the 2016 Fall Dega race, go give it a watch, is a perfect reason why we shouldn't have stage cautions at super speedways at the very least. All right, Colton. We got everything out a little bit over our hour and a half mark. Do you have anything else to say about anything NASCAR wise?
No, I'm pretty set and chilling. I'm excited for the Roval this next weekend. I really do like the Roval as far as all the road courses and shit that we go to. It is one of my favorites because I do feel like it puts on a fairly good, entertaining show. I don't say quite yet it's amazing racing, but it is fairly entertaining and it does a job. So I do like the Roval. I'm excited to see what kind of drama the cutoff of the playoffs round 2 has to what kind of energy that brings to the racetrack as far as the drivers are concerned. Yeah, I mean, it'll just be cool.
Yeah.
Hopefully
I'm looking forward to it. I was not planning on going, but some things fell through the cracks, and I may or may not have lucked out on some tickets in a way. If you catch my drift, I hope that none of my friends from SMI are watching right now. So we'll be there on Sunday only. We looked up and found some really cheap tickets. I'm going to my first road course race for NASCAR, so I'm really excited about that. And it's a playoff cutoff race, so looking forward to that. Road course has not been that great this year, if we're being honest, with the new car, because it's more suited for it. So hopefully the Roval just pulls out its back pocket, says, "Nah, this is NASCAR's wild card race." So hopefully it's good. Other than that, you'll see Colton next week, and we should have hopefully Nathan on next week. We had some stuff come up. Nathan obviously was affected by the hurricane last week, so That's why you didn't see us. And that Jimmy Johnson show, I think he said he was going to be on the week of the 21st or maybe the 12th. I'm not sure. But we will be doing the Jimmy Johnson Appreciation Show when he comes back. Check us out on or follow us and like us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Nathan's been putting out some really good content over there on Instagram at FanFuelMSM, capital F, capital MSM. And my dad said he will volunteer next week if needed. So you'll have a show next week if push comes to shove and we don't get anybody on. But come check us out next week. We'll see you next week. And all right. Well, before we go, I had made an intro and an outro music. So I was gonna play the outro and I forgot to. So just imagine that the intro songs continuing and you're hearing rock as we go off, and I'll make sure we do better next week. But other than that, all right, guys, we'll see you then.